Okay.
Okay, so it's over to you.
Thank you. Welcome to everybody to the Yardley Ward Committee. It's the first one we're attempting online. It's been a while. Hopefully things will get back to normal soon. I prefer to see everybody in the flesh, as it were. If I start sneezing, it's because I got a bit of hay fever. I'll just plough through that. Hopefully, I'll be okay. And I'll hand you over to Beverly, who will explain how the meeting will be run. Over to you, Beverly.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Eustace. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first online meeting for Yardley East. The way in which it's going to work tonight, I mean, some of you are probably very familiar anyway with online meetings, but we've got, if you want, what we've asked is for every resident, or for everybody in the meeting, to keep your camera off and to mute your microphone unless you're speaking, because it helps with the quality of the broadcast. The meeting is being recorded, so please be careful and mindful of what you're saying and what you actually put in the chat box, because it is a public meeting. So we give you the same instructions as we would do for a public meeting, a physical meeting. If you want to ask a question, can you please there's a raise hand icon. I think it's about the third one at the top of the screen. So if you just use the raise hand facility, if you want to ask a question, and once we can pick that up as we go along. If you'd rather not ask a question, but you want to put it in the chat box, please use the meeting chat box, which is the speech bubble, and you can actually put any comments and questions in that box as well. So that's how the meeting will run. And as I said, the meeting is being recorded, and a copy of the recording will be made available within 5 days after the meeting, and we will share the meeting link with you. Thank you, Councillor Eustace.
Okay, we'll move straight on to the COVID-19 info update, Beverly.
We've got
someone there to do it.
Yeah, we've got Rachel here from Public Health. Thank you.
Hello, Rachel, off you go.
Hello, thank you very much. So I'll give you an update in terms of where we are with the figures and what's happening across Birmingham and then locally in Yardley East, and then just give you a bit more information in terms of vaccinations and testing, if that's all right. So we are more than a year since we went through the first, we went into the first lockdown, and as we are now starting to slowly come out of our third lockdown, I'm pleased to report that the overall picture across Birmingham is a lot better than it was a few weeks ago. So our number of cases has dropped significantly, the number of admissions to hospital has dropped significantly, and the number of people who are dying from COVID has also dropped a lot. So all good news, but I think that the key message, and I'll come back to this later on, is we still absolutely need to be on our guard because we want to keep it low. The last thing we want is to see that the rates starting to rise again. So in terms of the rates in Birmingham at the moment, the latest 7-day rate that we've got is just under 27 cases per 100,000. And this is compared to 47 per 100,000 the week before. And when you think that at our peak, we were sort of over 800 per 100,000, like this is brilliant, very, very good news. Our rolling sort of 7-day rate, we are now down to being the 76th highest local authority in the UK when we compare to other local authorities, and certainly for many of the winter weeks we were much higher than that, so it's really good news that we've got the rate down so much. We do have, where we do have spread, we are still seeing it primarily through household, social and workplace interactions. There is a little bit of evidence of spread in schools, but not significantly so. And obviously at the moment we're in the Easter holidays anyway. And then in terms of hospital admissions at University Hospitals Birmingham, across the sites, we've seen over the last 7 days between 2 and 10 new cases a day, which again is a massive reduction on what we were having. In terms of locally in Yardley East, the ward ranks joint 54th out of the 69 wards for the number of COVID cases, where 1 is the highest and 69th is the lowest, with only 2 reported in the last week. So the rate is 19.3 per 100,000, so it's below the average rate for the whole of Birmingham, and ranks 50 out of the 69 wards. So really good news locally. And as I say, only 2 cases reported in the last week. And the other thing to note locally is that you have 6 COVID-19 champions in Yardley East. We are always happy to have more. So I might do a bit of a plug for that at the end. I've also got your vaccination data. So these are data up to the last week, and COVID vaccinations are going really well across Birmingham, and they are going well also across Yardley East. So across Birmingham, we are generally seeing in the older age groups just around 90%. And in Yardley East, you're actually running above 90%. So those age over 70, 75 and over 80, more than 90% of your local population have been vaccinated. As we come down into the slightly younger age groups, the over 65s, it's nearly 90%. Those age over 60, just about 90%. And then even coming down into the sort of 50 and 55-year-olds, we're running above 80%. So really great vaccination figures locally. What I would say is if there is anybody who hasn't yet been vaccinated in any of the groups who've been offered the vaccination so far, if for any reason you missed it, please get in touch with your GP. You absolutely can still get it. So if you have missed it, don't feel that that's it, you've got to wait for another invitation. Get in touch with your GP and they'll be able to add you onto the list and get you done. The higher that we can get the vaccination rate, the better chance we've got of keeping a lid on COVID infections and protecting people from catching it. The studies so far with the vaccine are showing really good protection from serious illness, and the vaccine also helps to prevent the spread of COVID. At the moment, most people have had a first dose. The NHS is leading this programme, and they're starting to give the second dose of vaccine to those in the older age groups. And what that does is really reinforce the immune system. Justin Varney, our Director of Public Health, described the first dose as if you think about studying for your GCSEs and you remember some of it, the second dose is like studying for your A-levels, where it really sort of like bangs it home, and so your immune system has got a much better memory of the infection. So anybody who's had the first dose, absolutely encourage you to go for your second one when you get the invite through. There are studies at the moment. As you know, we've got more than one vaccine available, and most people will be offered the same vaccine as they've already had, but they are looking to see whether mixing the 2 different vaccines, so you have 1 dose of one sort and 1 dose of another, whether that gives any additional protection. So I think that's something that we might see coming over the next sort of few weeks or months. I'm sure you're all very aware of in the news over the last couple of weeks about a very rare side effect which could be linked with the vaccine of blood clotting. And I just wanted to talk about this briefly. As you know, all medicines have side effects. Whatever it is we take, there is always a risk of side effects. And we know with vaccines, there's a lot of people, or many people, will have some sort of quite mild side effects. So, for example, you might get a sort of soreness where you have the injection. You might have a bit of a temperature for a couple of days. You might just feel a bit under the weather, a bit sort of tired. I had mine a couple of weeks ago, and certainly the next day I was like, oh gosh, I know I've had the vaccine, but sort of some paracetamol and 24 hours later felt much better. When they run clinical trials, and they've done clinical trials with tens of thousands of people with these vaccines, one of the things they're absolutely looking for are side effects. And within the clinical trials, they will monitor all of them, and that's how they develop all the knowledge around the common ones. But some are very, very rare, so you would never pick them up through the trials. So we have a really robust system for monitoring all medicines to look for rare side effects. And this is how we've picked up this possible link between COVID and this, and I say a very, very rare side effect of blood clotting. And it's a very small number of cases. However, it has been recognised, and this is why the advice in terms of younger adults has changed slightly with the vaccine. I think there's a couple of important things to note here. First of all, if you get COVID, your risk of serious illness and death is much higher than any of the risks with the vaccine. So if you get COVID, then you are unfortunately at risk of being quite ill and sadly possibly dying, and that risk is much higher than anything that the vaccine does. The other thing to note is that COVID infection itself causes blood clots. And this is why it was quite difficult to work out what was going on with the vaccine, because some people, if they caught COVID, the blood clots could be due to that. And the COVID causes blood clots at a much higher rate than the vaccine. So our vaccine experts, so our JCVI, our Joint Committee on Vaccine and Immunisations, have looked at all of this and actually recommended that the risk of getting COVID, of the effects of COVID, are far worse than the risk with the vaccine. So everybody should still continue to get the vaccine. However, adults under the age of 30 should perhaps be offered an alternative vaccine, so not the AstraZeneca one, but it's only under the age of 30 where the risk of the vaccine is sufficient to change any of the advice. Anybody over the age of 30, it's much more risky catching COVID than it is having the vaccine. If anybody's worried about any of this, please talk to your GP. And if you've had the vaccine and a few days later you're worried about any side effects, please again talk to your GP, and they will be able to sort of talk to you and work through with you what to do about any of the side effects and whether any of them are linked to the vaccine. Then the other thing I just wanted to mention is in terms of testing. As you know, we've got two different types of tests. We've got the PCR test, which is the test that we do for people who've got symptoms. The PCR test is really sensitive. If you've got COVID, then the PCR test will pick it up. So it's anybody who's got symptoms needs to either go online or phone 119 and request a PCR test, and that will tell them whether they've got COVID or not. The other type of test we've got is the lateral flow test, and this is the one that takes 30 minutes to do. Both types of tests you need to do a swab, but the lateral flow test, you basically just sort of drip some solution onto it, and if you get a line, it's like a pregnancy test type approach, then that tells you that the test has picked up COVID. The lateral flow test is for people who haven't got symptoms, and that's because it's really good at picking up high levels of virus. So people who haven't got the symptoms of COVID, they don't know they've got it, but they are at risk of spreading it to other people. So that's why the government have rolled out the lateral flow test through schools. So children in secondary schools and teachers across all schools are now testing themselves twice weekly, because what this means is that we can pick up COVID at the earliest chance, particularly in people who haven't got any symptoms, and get them isolated and prevent the spread. Anybody who it goes out to work rather than working from home has also been asked to test twice weekly, and actually now all of us have got the opportunity to test ourselves through lateral flow tests twice a week. Some of us will be able to get it through work. As I say, anybody linked with schools might be able to get it through school. But if not, then you can get hold of lateral flow tests either through one of our collection centres. And if you go online on the Birmingham Council website, it tells you there's lots of collection centres where you can call in and get lateral flow tests. And you can still get the test done there as well if you would prefer, but you can collect your kits and take them home and do them. Or you can order them online. I went online last night actually and ordered our next set. Really, really easy, and they just post them out to you. So I strongly recommend that everybody now starts to get into the habit of testing themselves twice a week. And as I say, what this does is it picks up COVID perhaps when you don't know you've got it, which means you can isolate and prevents spreading it to others. Even if you've had the vaccine, it's important that you still get tested. The vaccine doesn't prevent 100% of COVID. No vaccines do. So it's still important that you get tested so that you reduce the risk of spreading any COVID onto anybody else. And then just to mention our Kovid Champions. Our Kovid Champions are brilliant. People who are Kovid Champions receive regular information about COVID, and all we ask is that they share it with anybody they're talking to. So it might be family, it might be friends, might be people they work with, and they can rely on the fact that we're giving you accurate and up-to-date information. And also there's an opportunity to sort of feedback any sort of concerns or queries that are coming up. As I say, our only ask is that you just share any information that we give you with whoever you can. So if anybody would like to be a Kovid champion, you just sign up through our website. So just coming back to what I was saying at the start, in terms of we're coming out of lockdown, I think we are all mightily relieved. It feels like it's been a very long winter. So actually now we're going through this roadmap, a very slow process. It feels a slow process. And the reason is we've got these steps that are 5 weeks apart because it takes 3 to 4 weeks before you see any impact of the change in terms of the number of cases of COVID and any impact on hospital admissions. So we need to be sure that as we sort of release the measures, that we don't see a big increase in cases and a big increase in hospital admissions. So hence we've got these sort of steps at 5 weeks apart. As we come out of lockdown, it is still really important that we follow all of the guidance to reduce the spread of COVID. So social distancing is still really important. Even if you've been vaccinated, staying 2 meters apart from people who aren't in your household will reduce the risk of spreading. We now can meet up either as 2 households or a group of 6 outdoors. And again, the outdoors bit is really important because COVID is spread much, much less outside. The droplets don't travel as far, they get dispersed because there's lots of fresh air, and the sunshine helps to kill off any virus. So please stay outside. If you need to, wrap up in blankets. But absolutely, if you're meeting up with people outside of your household, if you stay outside, sit 2 meters apart, your chances of catching COVID are massively reduced. And then, of course, at the moment, we're still asked to wear face coverings when we're indoors. And, you know, if you're out and about, if you're starting to go shopping, please take your face covering with you. And remember the hand hygiene. So it's still important to wash your hands, take some hand sanitizer with you if you're out and about and you won't be able to. And I think if we're all able to do this, hopefully we'll be able to continue coming out of lockdown and get back to something that is much closer to normal. So that's the update from me. I think I saw a couple of questions.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Very good, very thorough. Can I thank everyone in Yardley and Stetchford that have worked so hard to keep the virus down, and a lot of people have suffered, obviously, and everyone in the professional services has worked very hard. And I know many of those who live in Yardley have told me how hard it's been, people in the health service, etc. So well done to everybody. Can I ask if anyone's got any questions for Rachel?
So there's one in the chat in terms of the South African strain. I haven't got a specific update on the one in Sandwell at the moment because I know they're currently testing people. So what happens when a PCR test is taken, some of these are sent away for genome sequencing, so that they basically do more analysis to have a look for the variants. And this does take a bit of time. So there's always a bit of a delay between picking up a variant and when the test was taken. But as soon as it's picked up, like the South African strain, we then, as you say, we go in and do sort of really intensive testing to see whether it has spread in that very local area. And we did this in Birmingham a little while ago, and I think this is something that we will see over the next few weeks and months as part of our approach to minimise any spread of any variants. So anytime there is a hotspot or a variant detected, we will go in and do this additional testing. And if that happens in in your local area, it's really important that as many people as possible get tested so that we've got a much better picture of what's going on.
Okay, anyone else? Question for Rachel.
So there's a question about vaccine uptake in residents from different ethnic groups. We don't have that locally. The data aren't broken down that far for us. There is some information for Birmingham, and I have to say I haven't seen it for the last couple of weeks. We were seeing a lower vaccination uptake in some groups, and we've been doing a lot of work with our different communities, including with our faith groups, about how we can understand the concerns that people have, and what we can do to try and help people be more confident with having the vaccine. So that is work that is absolutely ongoing. It's something that we're keeping an eye on, and as I say, using different ways of working with communities around any concerns that they're having.
Okay, any more questions? No? Well, thank you very much, Rachel. It's been a pleasure hearing from you. A very full and excellent report. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Eustace.
Can we move on to local news update, Beverly?
Yes, Councillor Eustace, are you going to give your update first?
Yes, yeah, can do. It's obviously been a busy 12 months. There's been a massive increase in casework that has kept all councillors busy of a very varied amount. And I'm just looking there. And issues have been many as well. Particularly just lately, I've managed to get the Stetchford Leisure Centre to clean all the graffiti off the back. It looks somewhat like the Bronx. And in recent months, managed to sort out 2 hostels that were causing problems in the area. At the moment, I'm concerned about the road surface in Queen's Road, which is very poor. But sadly, we've seen a big increase in fly tipping and untaxed vehicles lying around, often work vans that people are abandoning for months on end while they're not at work, which has not been good over this year. But it's all been dealt with steadily. So thank you for that. Can we move on to the ward plan, which we did deal with back in, I think, August 19, and that went forward to council, but I was asked to look through it again, and we've updated it a little. I've seen a couple of things we managed to get done from that ward plan, one of which was the bus route along Queen's Road. So that's come out of the plan now because it's been achieved. Have people received a copy of the ward plan, Beverly?
No, Councillor, I haven't sent it out, but I can do that following the meeting. If
you could, if you could tell us what the actual status of it is now. It's been finalised and sent to Karen Cheney, who leads this operation. And but bear in mind, it's not set in stone. It's something that we can update and alter as time goes on. So residents will have a continuing role to play with that. My main concern to get it in quickly is to do with the next item, which is the Commonwealth Games Celebration Fund. If you haven't got an up-to-date ward plan, you can't get any money. So I had to do that quickly. So we've done that. Shall we move on to the Commonwealth Games Celebration Communities Fund, Beverly?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
I haven't got that much information, Councillor Eustace, about the fund because I haven't been to the briefing. But my colleague Pat is on the call. So, Pat, are you able to help us out here with the Commonwealth Games funding?
Sorry, Bev, I had you on mute. I can share with residents the slide that was sent to members on the Commonwealth game. Sorry, the celebrating communities. If you just give me 1 minute.
Yes, and then I can send it out before following the meeting with the ward plan.
Oh.
Okay.
Right, can you see that? Sorry, Bev, are you able to see that?
Not if anyone else can, it's fine.
Not yet, not yet. No, you can't see it at the moment. Shall I try and show it from my screen?
Yes, I'm afraid technical issues have occurred today. I'm unable to share.
Let me see if I can find it and actually share it on my screen. So bear with me a second. Right. Okay.
Councillor, I think in the meantime, what we can do for the residents is to send out the notice regarding celebrating communities.
That'd be good, Pat. Yep, that'd be excellent. Thanks. More people see it, the better. Can you just tell people how much this ward actually gets, because there's differing amounts throughout the city?
I haven't got that figure to hand at the moment, Councillor, but each ward, it's roughly about between 11 to 17,000 if you're a single member ward.
Yeah.
And that is the figure. There are two rounds for this funding. There's a close-off date in June and another one in October. There are three areas to be considered for the celebrating communities small grants. One is around get active. The other one's ready, steady, fun, and celebrating culture. Under the Get Active programme, we're looking to bring communities together to celebrate sports and arts activities. So that is an area and get people more mobile, walking, cycling around Birmingham, around the ward, activities in the streets and parks. The other area, which is ready, steady, fun, is looking at different ways of celebrating events, and they can be street parties or picnic. That helps to connect citizens and have a civic pride, not just in Yardley, but also in Birmingham. And I'm aware that Yardley have over the years taken part in Bloom competitions or It's Your Neighbourhood. So that's another area that the funding can also look at. It's also about helping to reduce loneliness and isolations for those who are vulnerable or unable to meet on a regular basis. And the final one is celebrating culture. And it's about acknowledging Birmingham, the legacy of Birmingham with its Commonwealth residents from all over, running having places of engagements, also places that people probably were unaware of, that shows communities in place and having an identity, and also unheard history. So there may be an area in Yardley that, you know, you'd like to share with the rest of the city. Applications, as I said before, there are 3 application forms, one between 100 and 1,000. There is also 1,000 to 5,000, and then the other projects could be 5,000 to 10,000. The maximum for any bid will be 10,000. As I said, the funding is split over 2 financial years, July 2021, and then any events that we would like to run, and I say we as Yardley East, up to August 2022. There will be a process, and the process would be that any organisations, residents who are wishing to apply for the Celebrating Communities Fund will be asked to complete an application, and that application would be brought back to Yardley East in the ward forum for discussions and for people to make an input as to what activity they would wish to support as a ward. You know, if you are inundated with more than what you been allocated, obviously there would need to be a recommended project going forward to the panel. Panel would meet on your to look at your project to see whether or not it fits the criteria, and if it doesn't at the stage of receipt, it would come back to the ward, and we would endeavour to make it more appropriate for funding. So we would try not to turn down any, I say we, the panel, that is. So it's about encouraging and working to strengthen applications. If that's all successful, groups and organisations will be notified, and then they can commence their activities. I think that is as much as I'm able to give you at the moment, Councillor. But members who are listening to this are more than happy to put forward some ideas to you as the local councillors, or come together as a group. I'll put the link in the chat so you can have a look at the application. It is online. If you go onto the Birmingham website and type in Celebrating Communities, you'll be navigated to the appropriate site for the forms.
Thank you, Pat. Excellent report. I know there are people out there that are keen to get their applications in, and we'll need to help them do that. In particular, we're looking at Stetchford Neighbourhood Forum, who have ideas about activities in a park and planting in the area. I know that we have the conservation team that want to help improve the heritage lighting in the conservation area, which is the city's premier and first conservation area. Always remind people of that. And Faye, who runs activities in Yardley and wants to look at putting some trees up in the park to commemorate this great event next year. In particular, some oak trees, which we'd like to mask off some ugly buildings that are spoiling the view in the park, which is also in the conservation area. I think that would still leave some money for other issues as well. So we're going to make this money go as far as we can, and we'll work on that over the next few months with the people who are with us tonight and others who aren't. So we'll take that forward, and I'm looking forward to that. Anyone out there got questions for the team about the Commonwealth Celebrating Communities Fund? Now is your time. Over to you. Either ask on the chat function or ask by raising your yellow hand. No, you're all happy? Beverly, can you hear me?
I certainly can. I think everyone's a bit shy, Councillor.
They're a bit shy, but not to worry. We'll sort it all out face to face when we get the chance. Where Pat was saying that it's over 2 years, I'm particularly keen that any planting of substantial trees is generally a winter job. So we need to get that done towards this winter. So that would be the one that maybe residents want to push forward faster. But it'd be up to us all to sort that out. And I know that we will. We've got some excellent people, excellent residents and activists in this ward who play a large part in running this area and keeping it the way it is for residents. So we'll be able to deal with all of that. So if we're actually finished on that for now, but we will be revisiting that soon, we could maybe move on then to what's next on the list. Is it other updates, or have I missed anything, Beverly?
Hello again. It's other updates now. So it's a chance for residents really to share, so, to raise any concerns, comments, or to share any news.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Residents, have you got anything you want to ask me while I'm here? You can all phone me up. Most of you got my number.
Councillor, there was a comment in the chat box about, I saw it earlier on, about litter picks.
Litter picks, yeah.
About the next litter pick for Stechford. Have you got any news on that?
Litter picks I do quite regularly myself. If people have seen my leaflets over the last 18 months, I go out each month, do a litter pick myself, and I then ask residents if they are interested in getting litter picking in their area, and then I pass their details to the council. The good news is I regularly get 5 or 6 people every edition who begin to pick litter, and the council take them out a picker and a hoop and some bags so they can leave it specifically for the bin man. They're different coloured bags, different design. So it's going well from my point of view. But I'm also aware that there are a great many people out there who are picking up litter where they live, and some people are getting together in little groups and going off and picking in more substantial areas like the parks. And I'm very grateful for that. I think it's a wonderful task that they're doing, and more that we encourage it, the better. I think Nadim's got a question.
Yeah. Hello, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Yes, okay. So thank you, Councillor. Really interesting stuff around the Commonwealth funding. And we will certainly be making an application at the Village Forum in regards to that. But in regards to litter picking, historically, the Village Forum have always kind of undertaken kind of outdoor activities. And one of the themes for this year, we're mindful, and obviously listening to the public health expert, we're mindful of the fact that as restrictions begin to lift, and we're not quite at that point until I think it's May, when outdoor activities and the numbers of people that can be outdoors will be substantially lifted. So taking that into account, the Village Forum are thinking about aligning our work for this year with a campaign by Keep Britain Tidy. Yeah. And I think Keep Britain Tidy have got kind of a spring clean, Great British Spring Clean. I think it's running between the 28th of May to the 13th of June. And I suspect that's when restrictions will be significantly lifted. And if we are proposing to dovetail our plans for litter picks in and around that period, would it be best for me to then contact yourself? Because we cross over 2 boundaries. We cross over with you and Councillor Bowers.
That's
and
right.
I'd like to do a joint thing where we can get the councillors out, we can get bags, and we get all the kind of equipment that we need, and then kind of use our social media channels, Facebook and other, and essentially get residents out there with us, including the councillors and anyone else, and to kind of say, well, we'll do targeted action, whether it's on your side of Stechford or Councillor Bazzi's side. We can work out some sort of arrangement, but I'm happy to take this conversation offline with you at some point.
Yeah. I can say been very happy in the past to join the claims that Stechford Neighbourhood Forum have been in the park along the river occasions with absolute mountains of rubbish, which is quite stressful, but it's just as well it was done. So they are successful. They do bring the community together. The problem Stechford Neighbourhood Forum often has is the day they choose it rains. I think you must have a talent for that. We've had the odd good day, but many times it's rained. But never mind, we go out and get stuck in, and I'll be more than happy to join anytime. Anyone wants to go out picking litter, let me know. And obviously, if I can at all, I love being out in the fresh air, and I'm happy to pick up litter and tidy up. And we can all set an example. The more of us that do it, the better. I often think that if people just pick up the litter outside their house, if all of us that are physically capable of doing that did it, imagine how tidy the Yardley area would be. But there are, trust me, a number of people out there who pick up a great deal of litter regularly. I know a chap goes out every day except Sunday, and he's absolutely wonderful. And he hasn't been very well, so hopefully he's going to be okay. But we really must keep Yardley tidy. The council does do a lot of clearance. There's an excellent officer, and we don't often mention officers, but he's Andy McCoy, and he works down at Redfern, and he does everything he possibly can for us with his team. So I thank all of those people for that. They go out in a truck and they pick up a lot of rubbish every day and fly tipping, and the place is a lot cleaner for their efforts and residents' efforts. Litter is something that does annoy me because it doesn't magically appear itself. There's a tiny minority of people who just chuck rubbish about. In particular, fly tipping is my big bugbear, and I have masses of that removed constantly by the council, and they're generally quite quick. Fridge freezers do hang around a bit longer because there's a specialist truck and equipment to lift that and take it away because of the gases that are in them, you see. So people do wonder why fridge freezers can often stick around a little while, but they do. On that point, I recently had 15 removed from the frontage of the former Cascades site that people have been chucking there. It become a bit of a habit. So they all got removed. So I see now some tree plants and privet or whatever's appeared, but we'll get onto that as well. So anyone that's keen on picking up litter, wants to get together in groups or whatever, just have a chat with me, give me an email, give me a phone call, and I'll sort something out with the council and we can get on with that. Other questions? I think there was Vanessa had a question a moment ago. Did I see that light up?
Hi, yeah, I did. I put my hand down. I think you kind of went through pretty much our sort of thoughts as well, which, I mean, we litter pick every day in Old Yardley Park.
I know you did. Well done.
Yeah, but my sort of, it was expanding on that. Is there a sort of a council wide initiative to try and get that information out and educate people? If people did clear up the little patch in front of their homes on a weekly basis, we wouldn't have a problem. Is there sort of a more wide sort of campaign within the council to try and address that? Because the city is, and there's areas that you drive through, it is just disgusting. And I just felt if there was more education and a thought, you know, if everybody went out on a Saturday morning for an hour and cleaned the patch in front of their homes, there'd be less of an issue. And if everybody was aware of it, there'd be less of an issue.
I agree, Vanessa. Parts of the city are absolutely awful. There's rubbish everywhere. I think the worst area around here is that bypass down through Small Heath towards the city centre, which is awful. Thank God it's not in my area, but I do feel and rubbish in Park. We had some, and the left in parks all over the city was absolutely abysmal. And we did try to push him into Bang Holland. There's 2 in May. We tried to push him to put a bit more containers into parks so that people could deposit their rubbish as they left. Really speaking, if there's nowhere to put your rubbish, you take it home, it's your rubbish. But there are a small element that chuck it around. Perhaps if there were more receptacles, they'd put it in there. He wasn't keen on that. There's budget issues. But I think as the pandemic ends, and I'm hoping it is, I think most of us have realised what a great asset our parks are, and they've been far better used than for many, many years. And we want to keep them that way. And one way to do that is to improve them and keep them tidy. So I think there'll be a lot more conversation about this as we go forward. The city has put some more budget into tidying issues around the city. People may say, oh, well, that's because the Commonwealth Games are coming. I try not to be that cynical. I try. I don't always succeed. But there has been massive cuts in street cleaning by this council, which there have been some reverses to that now. So perhaps things will improve, but it's our Yardley and Stetchford, it's where we live. So let's also play our part. And I will certainly keep pushing this idea of people just cleaning up outside their house. It would be nice on a Friday, so it's tidy for the weekend. But certainly I pick up any rubbish I see outside my house. And fortunately, there's not too much in my street, but I do that. And I go out and pick up rubbish as well elsewhere. I'm working with the police to clear up a black spot, actually, which is in the ward, where there's a great number of people being collecting of an evening and drinking large amounts of alcohol and throwing all their empties all over the place. Me, the head teacher at Coxhill School, and local residents, including Matt Bowater, have been picking up that quite regularly, and the police are now moving those people on and putting a stop to that, which has got out of hand. So lots of people are now working hard on the litter issue. Hopefully we'll see improvements as we go forward. Thank you for that, Vanessa. There was a chap called Albert who had a question.
Hi guys, you okay?
Yep, fine. I can hear you, Albert.
Okay, so yeah, as a person that does social media, so I don't know when things happen and what happens and like updates and whatnot. Is there a way I can find out when all these, like for example, litter picking happens, when all these events happen? I just knew this by luck that there was going to be a meeting now, completely by luck. Someone told me about it, and then I was wondering, like, yeah, is there any other ways I can find out when when these things happen? And also litter picking, like someone, I think it was Vanessa that said every Saturday we should encourage people to do more litter picking. Yeah, how are we going to encourage people to do that then, like every Saturday? I don't think once. I think you said once a month, but I don't think that's enough, to be honest. I think once a week, like for 20 minutes, would make a big difference, or even 5 minutes or whatever. So yeah, that's what I had to say. Thanks.
Well, every bit of help does add up. You're quite right. Stetchford Neighbourhood Forum, when they have these large events, if you get on their site, you'll find out about that. If you want to email me at any time, I can let you know what's going on anywhere that I know about. I'm on the council site, obviously, neil.eustace@birmingham.gov.uk. Anyone's always welcome to contact me and I'll let you know what I know. At the moment, I've allowed people to sort of get on with it in their own time, because then they can do litter picking when it suits them rather than try and tie in with others. But there are groups of people who do go out and do that. And what we'll do is we'll move forward and get more interest in that and get more advertising of it, as you say. It would be a good idea to find out the dates for Stetchford, which Nadine will sort out, and we can have a large effort there. They do get a lot of people out and make a big difference. So yes, you're quite right. We need to all know when this is going on. But as I say, also, there's nothing stopping anyone as an individual going out and tidying up when they want to, on their own, and or with a family member or whatever, when suits them. So that's excellent. Thank you for that, Albert. There was someone else wanted a question. I've seen someone's name pop up. No? Okay. I'll move on. Hello, Beverly.
Hi, I think it was Nadeem who had a question.
Another one.
Yeah, I did have my hand up. It was just to answer the question that I think Albert's making a very fair point. In fact, the conversation is that everybody's just picking up is that increasingly since lockdown, our areas are becoming essentially a dustbin, and wherever we go and areas we look at, and Councillor, I think you mentioned the area around Ballsey Green, Small Heath. I think that in particular, I remember there's a shop. Is there a shop around there? The old Yardley Conservation Area site. And it's such a shame to see it, just bags of litter just strewn everywhere. It wasn't that long ago when I was just driving on the main high street where the old Cascade swim bars, bags, and in fact people were cutting down trees and throwing trees over there. What's more concerning, if it is a concern, because I think it's equally as bad, is the graffiti. It's, for example, in the Village Green, which, as you know, Councillor, is on the high street. The flower beds have been graffitied. Unbelievable. The flower beds have been graffitied. I just don't understand how people can see that as a badge of honor. But it is being done. Obviously, we have to be mindful as a village forum that we don't encourage people to come out in numbers that we know that would be prohibitive. So we can only work by the guidance and the guidelines. We also, as a village forum, have to be mindful of, when we're looking at significant numbers of people, safeguarding and risk assessments that we have to do now, which are mandatory, which we've been advised to do. But we've picked a particular theme with the Great Britain Tidy. But I also go along with what everybody else is saying. You know, look at what's in front of you, in your front, right in front of your houses. We are and can now meet in terms of numbers of 6 people outdoors or 2 households. And we are posting regularly on our Facebook page. So I've just posted that as a link. So we are regularly updating that. And if anyone looks at that, it's free. You don't have to sign up. But I will get in contact with you as soon as we are ready, Councillor, so we can kind of start kickstarting this. But there's no easy way of saying but that we are restricted somewhat in terms of restrictions at the minute.
Okay. Thanks for that, Nadeem, and all that you do. On the graffiti point, it's something that, again, winds me up intensely. I've been working quite hard on that. The new leisure centre, as I said earlier, was plastered in it, and that's been cleaned off. I tried to get them to put a graffiti coating on. I'm not sure they have. It will probably return otherwise. Cable boxes are quite a problem. They're supposed to clean them. They're very, very slow to do so. I've gone round and cleaned quite a few myself. I've got a can of paint and I've gone paint over the graffiti. So that's happening. I have spoken to the police, and I even went to the Chief Constable about this, because there's certain individuals that have graffitied all over the West Midlands, and in particular heavily in this area. Somebody called Snape and somebody called Luke Pocket, whoever they are. And the police tell me I can't report graffiti because it's criminal damage and it has to be reported by the owner of the property. And I just find that not helpful, to be honest. It's a thing that's difficult to deal with. As I was saying earlier, a few more resources have been put in by the cabinet member, and he's increased the graffiti teams. They'll be coming on stream in a few months. So there'll be extra people out there clearing graffiti, though they clear it off council property and the street scene, not private businesses who they will make a charge to. So that becomes a bit of an issue. I always think that if I see graffiti on a business, I don't do business with that business, because if they can't be bothered to keep their building clean, I just wonder what their attitude is, full stop. So it's up to us all to maybe say something to a shop or an engineering works. I know I've gone round and said, why do you leave it there? People often respond and take it off. It goes in waves, this graffiti thing. It seems to kick off for a year or so, and then it goes away for a couple of years. I know many years we've put a great deal of effort into the city and we beat graffiti and tagging, tagging being the main problem. It's starting to come back. And I know that I've spoken to the chairman of public protection, Councillor Phil Davies, and he's keen and looking into ways where he can re-energise the city and the various authorities into doing more about graffiti. There we are. They're quite easy to catch because, believe it or not, they often have lots of evidence on their own phones and laptops. So if police do pay them a visit, there's usually plenty of evidence. So it's not that difficult, and it is criminal damage. So I think the police should play more of a part in trying to do something about it. And certainly I made the Chief Constable aware of that. So there we go. That's that one. Albert, you wanted to come back. Now's your moment.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for your email, and Nadeem, thanks for all your information. One thing I wanted to say, that Lupica guy, there's an article that he did get caught quite recently, actually. And the other thing I wanted to say is, what's actually going to happen to Stetchford Cascades? Like, what's the next, what's going to be built there? Have they said anything about it or anything?
Yeah.
And lastly, Yardley Fields Park. The grass being cut on Yardley Fields Park. When does, who's in charge of that, and like when does that happen? It's in like Stetchford, I think, Yardley Fields Park. Yeah, that's all I had to say.
It's in my ward. But obviously it's owned by the council. They will eventually decide what happens to that site. The neighbourhood forum is looking to take the site on and develop it in various ways that will complement the community. What none of us in the area wanted when I organised a public consultation about 2 years ago, none of us wanted yet another supermarket to appear. So we did have to win that fight with the council first, but the council is now talking to Stetchford Neighbourhood Forum, who they're trying to come to some sort of agreement. Nadine, can you update us on that, please?
And Councillor, I can give you an update. Obviously, what we've been working with, well, this is a joint application. It was a joint application submitted by the Stetchford Baptist Church in conjunction with the YMCA, essentially to provide essentially an iconic community building that could be used instead of, as you say, a supermarket or an Aldi or Lidl. Now that application has gone in. Janet Down, the consultant, has been leading on this on behalf of the Baptist Church and the YMCA. Pre-planning application has gone in. I know Ian, is it the head of Birmingham City Council, Ian Ward, met with and his team of delegation met with the team, and what they've essentially have said is that they're awaiting the decision on the pre-planning application. That decision hasn't come through yet. I've been told it's imminent. Now, if it goes ahead, it's going to be a game changer here for the Stetchford and the High Street and the people living within this area, because it's going to be a landmark building which I think will be used for generations, for years to come, and it will sit right very neatly alongside the new gymnasium, which is obviously there. So what we're going to be doing in the next couple of weeks is that we're going to have an open residence meeting, councillors. So everybody on the membership list will be invited. I think, funny enough, I think Albert, I think you also have been added to our list as well. So you'll receive the invite. Open resident meeting. This is where Janet Down, the consultant, will be able to provide the announcement. We'll also have somebody from Birmingham City Council, and obviously at all of our meetings, Councillor, you're there. We also have Councillor Bababaz as well. So it will be the opportunity for all the residents to join us on a Zoom meeting electronically, to kind of hear about what's going on. We had a meeting a couple of months ago, just to give people an update, where we provided the architecture and the drawings and the schematic drawings for what the proposal looked like. Now that was met very favourably. We did a consultation about 18 months ago with residents, and all of that information was harvested, which then resulted in the pre-planning application. So community residents are very much the heart of what we're looking to do here. I very much hope it goes through, but again, it's down to the council and the decision makers. But I really think if it goes through, it will make such a difference to this area.
Thank you, Nadine. I've supported the Residents Forum's activity on this from day one, because I didn't want another supermarket, and I knew residents didn't, because they were telling me that. And I think it's important that local people get to have a serious say and an input into what is built in their area on a substantial site like the former Cascades site is. Now, there's obviously very little land around that isn't already developed, so it's rare to get a reasonable sized site. So I'm pleased that the Neighbourhood Forum are being listened to by the council, and I've spoken to Ian Ward myself personally on this, and he has been very helpful, so fair play to him. One thing I managed to get through the Land and Property Department was that at the back of the old Cascades, there is an area that was grass between the former swimming pool and the brick wall. That grassed area with some mature trees will be transferred into the park with that wall coming down. So when the site is developed, it'll end at that grassed area, which will go into the park. So I think it's good news all round. We're getting the park there slightly enlarged. It's about the size of maybe 2 5-side football pitches, or maybe one large one, shall we say. But it's got some mature trees on it that are quite attractive, which there aren't many trees on that park, so that's quite useful. I've got to keep my eye on it that they do stick to their promise. It has gone through Cabinet and been agreed, as that plot of land was then decided to go forward for its next movement. So hopefully that'll work. And if the forum get its plan through and manage to purchase the site and build on there, I think everyone's a winner, to be honest, and we're quite happy with that. And with a new leisure centre there, if you look at that area of Stetchford, the railway station now has the lifts in it. The roadworks at the bottom of Iron Lane there are virtually finished. I went through the other day, it was a pleasure. And with a new leisure centre and then this iconic building, things really have improved over the last 4 or 5 years in that area of Stetchford. And I do also think that when the tram comes up through Bordesley Green East and the Meadway, linking the town and the NEC stroke HS2 and airport, then that will access a great many jobs for local people also. They'll be able to jump onto the rapid tram and go straight into town or the other direction. So things are picking up locally, and I'm very pleased about that. It's about time.
Councillor, if there's one other thing, thank you. If there's one other thing I can very quickly mention is that I have been working weekly on a daily basis with senior planning officers at Birmingham City Council, particularly with regard to the East Birmingham Inclusive Growth Strategy. And we are planning to meet with representatives from that department here in Stetchford to do essentially a little walk around. But what I am working with them to see if we can also build essentially opposite the former Cascade swimming site, where we've got the village green to be selected as one of the key locations for the Birmingham Council Covid Memorial Garden. Now, if that is something that can be approved, obviously we're working behind the scenes, I can't guarantee anything. Again, it will again drive significant change within the high street, improve the location, beautify locations. It will make such a big difference. So the Village Forum, as always, are working closely with the councillors, stakeholders, everybody we can to kind of keep ensuring that Stetchford is right at the heart of what we're doing, and residents' views are being heard loud and clear.
Very good. Well done, Nadeem. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else got anything they want to say before we close the meeting? Okay. The future of meetings, if you know about this, the government has said that all councils must go back to normal meetings from roughly the 7th of May, which is when elections throughout the country for councils, that's the day after. There aren't council elections in Birmingham, but there is the election for the West Midlands Mayor and the Police Commissioner, and there's a couple of by-elections, but we haven't got normal council elections. The rest of the country has. Now, although we've been told we've got to go back to normal meetings, the LGA, which is the Local Government Association, is challenging that because they think it's too soon. So things are still fluid on that point. I personally prefer to see you all and sit there in a nice meeting room and have a chat and a cup of tea. So we'll see what happens shortly, and hopefully our next meeting will be together, but we will be having meetings to make sure we spend this money wisely that's coming our way. So can I thank you all for coming? I really do appreciate you being here. So I'd be sat in this living room on my own, talking to myself, which is a good idea. So thank you very much. See you all again soon. Remember my email. Anyone can always contact me. I'm only too happy. I'll get back to you as fast as I can. I do get up to 96 emails a day, so sometimes it could be 6 o'clock in the morning when I'm replying to you. Thank you very much. Thank you to the officers who've helped us with the meeting. Excellent, Beverly and Pat. And thank you very much to Rachel for that excellent report as well. So good night to you all. I'll switch off now, and I'm sure Beverly will close down as well. Thank you. Cheerio.